3 dead, a boat reduced to wreckage, and a clear message from Washington. The war on drug trafficking now has a name, a face, and coordinates. Under direct orders from Donald Trump, U.S. forces attacked a vessel near the Venezuelan coast, the 5th bombing in less than 2 months. For some, a legitimate counter-terror operation. For others, the beginning of a disguised invasion. What is really happening in the sea that separates America from peace? On Sunday morning, U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth confirmed what many had feared. American armed forces carried out a new military attack off the coast of Venezuela, leaving 3 dead. The operation, according to Washington, was part of the Trump administration's direct offensive against international drug trafficking and targeted a vessel belonging to the National Liberation Army, ELN, a group designated as a terrorist organization by the United States. Hegseth described the incident as a preventive action, stating that the Venezuelan vessel was carrying large quantities of narcotics and navigating a traditional maritime smuggling route between the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. The secretary compared the ELN to Al-Qaeda, calling it the Al-Qaeda Latin America, and vowed that they will be hunted down and killed. The bellicose tone echoed Donald Trump's own words, as he has repeatedly used his Truth Social platform to declare zero tolerance toward Venezuelan drug trafficking. While the Pentagon celebrated the mission's success, Nicolás Maduro's government condemned the attack as a grave violation of Venezuelan sovereignty, claiming the victims were civilian fishermen, not terrorists. The Venezuelan Foreign Ministry accused the United States of waging a hybrid war campaign, combining disinformation, sanctions, and now, bombings in Caribbean waters. With this latest episode, there are now 5 confirmed U.S. strikes in less than 2 months, all near the Venezuelan coastline. The Caribbean, once a commercial and tourist corridor, has become a theater of operations where Washington and Caracas fight for every nautical mile, as if it were contested territory in wartime. Donald Trump's response was swift, harsh, and left no room for ambiguity. In a post on Truth Social, the U.S. president declared, "Under my watch, the United States will not tolerate narco-terrorists trafficking illegal drugs, by land or by sea." Trump called the attack a victory against state-funded crime, and reinforced his stance that Nicolás Maduro's regime has become a fully functional narco-state sustained by drug money and military corruption. In Washington, sources close to the Department of Defense revealed that new rules of engagement have been approved, allowing U.S. units to intercept and neutralize any vessel suspected of links to Venezuela or to the Cartel of the Suns, a criminal organization made up of Venezuelan generals. The goal is to financially strangle the drug supply chain that, according to U.S. intelligence, flows from Venezuelan military bases into the Caribbean and the United States. Meanwhile, Maduro's regime reacted with its usual script: deny everything, accuse the U.S. of imperialist aggression, and appeal to the United Nations for an urgent investigation. But that narrative has lost force. The evidence presented by Washington, including videos, satellite images, and intercepted communications, indicates that the targeted vessel had direct links to Colombia's ELN guerrilla group, which operates under Venezuelan protection. Colombian President Gustavo Petro also found himself in Trump's crosshairs, being called an illegal drug trafficker, with U.S. subsidies to Colombia suspended as a result. The message was unmistakable. Any nation complicit with narco-trafficking will be treated as an enemy. Trump has turned the Caribbean into a strategic chessboard against organized crime, and Maduro's regime, isolated and weakened, now faces a tightening international siege with every new strike. Sunday's attack marks a geopolitical turning point. For the first time in 2 decades, the United States has reasserted its show of strength in the Caribbean, openly challenging Nicolás Maduro's regime and sending an unambiguous message to the world. The era of impunity is over. Trump, in contrast to the hesitant policies of previous administrations, has reinstated the American doctrine of deterrence, the belief that peace only exists when the enemy fears retaliation. Defense analysts point out that Maduro's government is facing its weakest moment since 2019. The country is economically bankrupt, militarily hollow, and diplomatically isolated. Venezuela's armed forces, once a symbol of sovereignty, have become the logistical arm of cartels and guerrillas. Drug trafficking is now the regime's primary financial engine, and it is precisely this symbiosis between crime and state that makes Caracas an increasing threat to hemispheric security. While Chavista propaganda tries to portray the bombings as imperialist aggression, the world sees a different reality. The U.S. is not bombing innocents, but dismantling the criminal infrastructure of a government allied with dictatorships and terrorist groups. Russia, Iran, and Cuba continue to provide Maduro with technical and political support, but U.S. military pressure has begun to reshape the regional balance. Countries like Colombia, Panama, and Trinidad and Tobago have already expressed tacit support for the American operations, acknowledging that Venezuela has become the epicenter of drug trafficking in the South Atlantic. The United Nations, pressured by Maduro's allies, has avoided condemning the attacks. But behind closed doors, it is widely acknowledged that the U.S. advances viewed as necessary contain a crisis threatening the whole of Latin America. With Trump in command and the Pentagon on the offensive, the Caribbean has once again become the stage where the West decides the future of continental stability. Sunday's bombing was not just another episode in the war on drugs. It was a strategic message, clear, calculated, and irreversible. The United States, under Donald Trump's leadership, has chosen to confront Nicolás Maduro's Venezuela for what it truly is: a narco-military state exporting drugs, misery, and instability across the continent. While the regime tries to twist the narrative and play the victim, the reality is different. The Caribbean is being cleansed. Each sunken ship, each neutralized submarine, represents a direct blow to the financial heart of the Venezuelan dictatorship. The silence that follows these strikes is not peace. It is the sound of an empire collapsing, one that uses people as shields and drug trafficking as lifeblood. If history teaches us anything, it is that no regime built on crime survives the weight of truth and force. Latin America now stands at a crossroads. On one side, tyranny and chaos. On the other, law, sovereignty, and the duty to protect. The question that remains is, who will still dare defend Maduro after this?